And we're live and direct from Sydney, Australia and Spain. Today we've got the Ascension warrior, the ascended master himself, Mr. Rick Jules is joining us, and it's quite a story on how we ended up on here live together, isn't it, Rick?
Yeah, it's pretty good. We just recently met, come across your post, and saw you're entering the political field in Australia. And I'm going to Australia here, coming your way in perhaps a few months. I need to go there divinely. So very beautiful, and here we are.
Well, when you make the decision to come out here, let me know, and we will certainly show you around the place. It's an absolutely beautiful country we got here. You'll love it.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I've always wanted to go to Australia when I was just human, and looking like now, yes, I need to go there. Uluru is a very important area, so
yes,
it's looking like I must go there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my son's actually going there for a school trip shortly. He's really excited about it. Yeah, it's a very important spot right in the center of Australia there. Lots of beautiful Aboriginal stories of Uluru that are captivating to listen to.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I love that so much when I get there as well. Uluru is very important with the new 5D ley line grid system. It's one of the nodules that we kept intact. So that is a 5D grid nodule. In constructing the 5D ley line grid, there was approximately maybe only 3 or less than a half of dozen of the old ley line nodules that we could keep intact. And Uluru was one that was kept intact for this 5D grid.
Wow. Talk to us a little bit about those ley lines and what that's all about before we get into the political stuff. I'm sure it ties in there, Rick.
Oh, okay, of course. Well, essentially, there's a lot written about ley lines, and ley lines, to keep it simple, with Gaia, Mother Earth, these are energetic lines that maintain the stability of Gaia, the planet, and but also what they really do is they dictate the polarity of events and what occurs upon the surface. And so what had occurred with the ley lines is that in the past, with the dark rule prior to 2012 linear time, these ley lines were, let's say, they were compromised by the dark to dictate the polarity of the energy all around Gaia to influence the events upon the surface and also to maintain control. And with these ley lines, many of the, let's say the churches, mainly the Roman Catholic Church and some of the other sinister churches, they would build their churches upon these sites, perform, let's say, some of the sadistic rituals as well, and by a child sacrifice and much more. And this would generate into those areas, deep fear and negativity. And from these ley lines, it stems outward the energy from it. And if their ideology was, which worked, you have a ley line, and then if all the energy out from it is negative, it affects reality, because reality, it does have a polarity with the frequency. So this is to keep it as simple and as short as I can. This is what was going on. So with the what we call the dark rule, not only the churches, it's all of the elite and much more were practicing this, and this is how they maintain control upon the planet through the wars and in whatever way that they could cause misery, all of the undesirable things and suppression. Then they were able to control the reality here. So since 2012, with the Ascension and of course with the Mayan calendar, which very closely predicted the end of the old way, which it did. And this ushered in between the 18th and 23rd of November of 2012 was the actual ushering in of the new Gaia. And you could look at it as Gaia being 3D. However, then everyone was put into a temporary 4D to use a label and a gauge for where we're at until this ascension completed. But part of the ascension is the ley lines are directly connected to the ascension because everything is energy and vibration, and the polarity in these lower dimensions is very important to free humanity from the darkness. The polarity of the vibration of the planet is required to be changed, and hence, this is why the part of the reason as well why the light, love is where we go with, and positivity. And what this does, because each one of us has an energetic field. Once that energetic field is purified, changed to positivity, and absent of most of the fear spectrum, then what occurs is that each one upon the surface that has done this has a huge impact on reality as well, transitioning it to the positive. So what I just spoke about, you could write a book on that. So I'll just stop. That's a general idea why the ley lines are important, and we switch the polarity back and forth. Also on the physical Gaia with the ley lines, every resource that is in the ground of Gaia, it has an electric charge. And what also was occurring prior to 2012, because of extensive mining of mineral resources, gas and oil also, because they carry a charge, and also the by altering by putting dams in and changing the natural flow of streams and rivers, it upset the electrical balance of Gaia. And what actually occurred in 2012, in November, between 18th and the 23rd, Gaia did flip. And what occurred because of this ascension going on, everyone, unbeknownst to them, was transported to a 4D Gaia state. So there was an apocalypse. It did occur. However, let's just say that everything was saved, and it was done in this manner, and also in time for this ascension. So I'll stop there.
For those in the audience who don't know what you mean by 3D, 4D, 5D, can you just elaborate on that in simple terms so they get a feel for what you're exploring here?
Yeah. So I use, let's say, the labels 3D, 4D, 5D for gauges of reality and the state of being. So 3D was the lowest density into the dimensions where any soul or material being can exist. So, but what occurred is 3D. It's kept in place when you look at D. the third dimension, you also need to look at density. And in the 3D, fear and negativity is density. So during the course of going from 3D to 4D, prior to 2012, what had occurred is a light quotient, meaning enlightened souls and light workers, of course, upon the surface had been empowered and purified to such a degree that the light quotient of, let's say, 144,000 was secured. There were 144,000 that had come back into their divine power as well, that enabled the transition also to 4D. So there was a huge lift to a 4D state of being and also your reality. And what occurred in 4D, if you look at black magic and the dark control, they did control somewhat from a 4D state. But what occurred when humanity also was lifted up to the fourth dimension, it placed humanity right at a level playing field with the darkness of the lower densities. So then that changed everything. And also on top of this, we had the 5D state of being where one's raised when they're absent of fear. So then this meant that darkness could not interfere with any part of what they were doing in the process, because when the ones come up here in 5D, this is a different reality that the darkness again can't touch. And again, we're using these terms as well as in density. So I'm using this in layers to give it an explanation that is easy to look at how creation works, at least in these lower dimensions. And it defines the ascension process, what is currently happening in our reality now.
And okay, so today, you and I, a big part of this discussion that we'll be exploring is tying in what you've just shared with us with like the political arena and other things as well, like tying all these things together in a way that kind of grounds it into our here and now in this world and what it's become and where we're going. Why is it so important for us to be having such a spiritual discussion and tying it in with something like politics?
Okay, thank you. And that's a perfect question. Why it's so important is because the transition of humanity, let's say the suppression that had occurred in the enslavement in this lower dimension, had affected universal law, and to a degree that, to keep it simple, again, to a degree that we were allowed to intervene in reality here and in the human experience. So to transition humanity out of enslavement and to heighten the experiences of a soul and humanity as a whole. However, it was so important that this was done because, again, human life, there's much more life, let's say, in your universe. And there are many other different races that, let's say, scheduled to have contact and what have you. And this should have occurred around 116, 123 years ago, that humanity should have been transitioned. There was interaction with what we can call galactics. And however, there were a lot of things, that were done that broke universal law by an intentional darkness. So in the intentional darkness were the leagues of the league of the dark angels that were cast out from creation, and they were, let's say, trapped here, and it was all allowed to play out because, again, for what we truly are, there is no time, meaning that we can, well, there just is no time. We have the ability to exist anywhere in time and space. So even though, let's say, uh, there were things that occurred through, let's say, the last couple thousand years that would seem cruel and what have you, but to get to the very truth of the matter, again, we live forever. This is just an experiment, or not an experiment. It's an experience. Sorry. However, there was interference from the dark regime that was interfering with things and putting it out of sync with the timelines for the rest of the universes. So, what I'm speaking about is creation and more of how it really works. And this needs to be said now because, again, within the governments, this was part of the dark regime, and with soulless minions that were created. And also, with this, let's say that you may look at the human population as being 8 billion upon the surface. That's only about 2/3 of that are actual souls. The rest are, let's say, constructed biological life forms that are human like with a programmed consciousness. So you have organic ones, they have no soul. You have AI, meaning in what would look like humanoid vessels, cyborgs, whatever you wish to describe them, but they don't have a soul. And I use the term minions for these ones because they are facets of the dark, and they were put in places of governments in the control regime to operate that. So, for instance, um, someone watching, or even you in the past, you might have had an issue with a government place, with a common sense issue that could have been resolved. However, when you go in and you give, all of the information, you would get no satisfaction whatever, because they're programmed just to keep the dark system intact. So that this is why they had no heart or no consciousness, and you will run into these ones. Not so many now. A lot of them have been replaced. However, in the past you did, and this is why, because they were not human. They were humanoid, but they did not have a soul. So the politics, very important now. So with the transition, with this ascension, and um, the freeing of humanity, what is occurring is that, again, because of this ascension, all of us that have souls here, a lot will be playing the leadership roles in steering humanity and Gaia out of the savagery that was here prior. Well, still remnants of it here now, but prior to 2012, it's steering humanity out of the savagery into being what I call civilized. And also, uh, then what is universally going to occur is the interactions with the galactics and some other alien racist life forms, if you will. So this is setting the stage for this, and what I'm given in regards to that, most of us, like I, that have been doing a lot of the main work here, and that will be the leaders. Um, for, let's say, a temporary leader, some will be. We'll only be here for about another year or two to assure everything goes straight, and that very rapidly humanity is put into the civilized area where the dark no longer has the control, and it's in what we call a 5D state, where there is no darkness controlling humanity, and where negativity and negative, undesirable experiences are no longer required for the soul, or it's no longer part of the human experience either. So it's very important, for you, Mike. You're going in there, getting the foot in the door in the politics, and this is also the transition for the governance of Gaia temporarily, as also all that will be required here in the future will be a group of about 12 ambassadors that will be upon the surface. So in the very near future, there will be no borders, no countries. Everything will be transitioned. The control of money, right at this point, money is not needed on the planet right now. It doesn't need to be there. However, as part of the transition, very quickly you'll have there will be no wealth disparity. It will be equality for everyone very quickly in a financial means. Why money is still used as a form of exchange, while all of the transitioning within technology and your vehicles and all of this will all be changed very rapidly. So it's very important, especially for ones like you, Mike. I'm just so impressed and beautiful to see this, because this is indicative of that transition of the light taking over the governance, to allow for the freedom of humanity and restoring the order in the least of the light. And because again, one thing, very quickly with the money thing, anyone just wishes to look at it, the money is just created digitally now. And to base economies, or to even have what they call an economy, and to have it asset backed, like this is all, it's all so primitive. And so, for very, to just keep it simple, again, I know you get questions, so I'm going to stop, but just keep it simple again. In the blink of an eye, everyone, there doesn't need to be any gold back or asset backed currency. It's ridiculous. If you look at the world debt, like I love one of the memes that come up. They say the world is in debt gazillions of dollars. Who do they owe it to? I mean, that it's so nonsensical, the debt and the way the monetary system went, and why they need to base money on a resource or what have you. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the common sense about this is there within the professional fields of scholars and what have you. And the way the status quo, or the way it was, it no longer serves as well, because once you have, the public and also many professionals aware of, how simple this is. Let's just say overnight, a bank, or let's say overnight, a government can just put money in everyone's account. Like, boom, just then you wipe out poverty, you wipe out misery, you wipe out a large amount of sickness is created by stress, which money was created to also affect stress. So again, you're looking at energy, but very quickly, again, the blink of an eye, right around the world, governments can just give everyone, money what they need, and they can cure in the blink of an eye the world's problems. So, and this is what's coming here very quickly. It's that close that, you know, I anticipate at any moment or any day seeing it, because the solution is so simple.
Hearing you share this with us, Rick, I can't help but think of Nikola Tesla and what he wanted to do and what happened there. You know, with the darker forces, the leaders at the time, the J.P. Morgans, the Westinghouse, Edison. What happened there to a genuine man who just wanted to bring his genius, his vision, what he knew he could do, bring that to the world, and free everyone, give it to everyone for free, type of thing. And what was done there to this man was, it's pretty much just a fractal of this whole society in every way. It's always the financial oligarchs and the governments, the big business that's always in there to monetize it. And this process stops the real progress from happening. It stagnates it. So progress is so tiny, has to be in tiny little steps, it can be very, very frustrating. I couldn't help but think of that as I was listening to you just then.
Oh, indeed, and Tesla plays a very important role. As we know, everything is energy and energetics. And yes, there was, let's just say, the part of the technology that was released to the surface was with what Tesla had and what he was working on. And also, of course, we know that that was taken over by the darkness and suppressed as well and kept away from humanity. Now, with Tesla, what you will also find in the very near future, some more information coming out that has not been revealed to the public of more of what actually occurred with Tesla. But yes, it's very important. These are, let's say, what Tesla had, what he worked upon, time travel and all of this, very real and very well done, and works perfectly, and so much more. And I can say with the time travel, the dark was using that. And this is one of the areas where universal law was broke at maintaining a control over humanity. And again, when this was broken to such a degree, this allowed more of us to come here to the surface to rectify and set things back in divine order. And so, yeah, Tesla, very important. Yeah, and 369 and all of this.
Yeah, I can understand why back then. I mean, even now, when I really think about who Tesla was and what he was trying to do back then, like, in his time, which is quite a lot has changed in the world. And even if he was here today, his ideas are like revolutionary. They're a stretch for a normal person to capture his vision. But back in his time, wow, I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. And it's a shame that these light warriors in all their fields, all the different ones, they're always put in this position where they live kind of like in poverty. They're ostracized. They're seen as weirdos, whilst their ideas, their energy gets milked, gets parasited, and all the good stuff gets shut down so it can be monetized and put out there to control. Where these guys, these beautiful souls, are always about freeing humanity, freeing society, like, and then this centralized, corporatized type of mindset comes in and wants to destroy and enslave everyone. You mentioned earlier in the interview, right at the start, about the enslavement of humanity. And this is something that I'm very interested in, you know, and it's something that that I'm really wanting to dedicate myself to. But at the same time, there's a kind of there's a kind of conflict within me, because when I look at the world, it's like the vast majority of people find security and safety in the herd. They don't necessarily want to be freed. So I ask myself, you know, at what cost can this be done? It can't, you know, I can't literally be a part of destabilizing the whole world. I mean, there's a system here, and however terrible it is, this transition, you know, how do we do it where we're not destabilizing people who are not ready for this kind of truth yet, for whatever reason?
Actually, Mike, it can be done very simply. Just show them they have a choice. And let's just say one choice is over here, you have the monetary system, the way it was in what they say economics. So people already know this. They know how enslaving it is. However, over here, you say you have a choice to give everyone the same amount of wealth, or at least enough to be comfortable. Like, and anyone can perceive that and understand it. Like, what choice are they going to make? So very quickly, it's a no-brainer to what, you know, each would choose. So that choice, what I'm saying, that everyone, there will be the wealth equality very rapidly. Everyone's going to choose that. And what you have is 99% of the population, or even 70% upon the surface. Then what that does, when everyone supports that in the blink of an eye, when as humanity altogether, when 70% supports that, which can be done very quickly with the internet and spreading the awareness, then the old matrix collapses, because it needs the support of the people. So very quickly it collapses, and we're already going there with the worldwide protests. You know, millions and billions of people now are standing up. So we are right amidst of this transition, and everything is just hanging by a thread, the old way. So I mean, even though ones may say the masses are not awake, you go to them and begin asking them questions, and you'll be surprised if you give them a choice. Very quickly, they'll choose in an instant if they had a choice. And what I'm saying, this choice is here, that all of the people very quickly all around the globe can do this. And again, it's you don't need in the past what they call rocket scientists to figure this out. It's common sense. It can be done that quick. So all they need to know is they have a choice to what they wish to support, the way it was, the way that it is, or the good way that sets them free. And very quickly you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got such serious problems with homelessness alone, like in the US. I mean, here in Australia as well. But I look at California and I'm like, what the hell is going on there? In such a short period of time, literally, there's so huge a percentage of the population in that part of America that are living in these huge tent cities. Like, they're forming homeless tent cities, you know, and I struggle to understand why this is allowed to continue. Why, when the solution is quite simple? I mean, you know, normal people, given the resources that a government has at its disposal, normal people would form like a council and fix this shit within such a short time. It makes you wonder, like, you know, what is it, man? What? Seriously? Because they've got no money, they're just left to die?
No, no, it was done intentional, yes, to control humanity. And it's ridiculous. Like yesterday, I took a walk here, and I see this huge art sculpture. It looks like it's made out of stainless steel, and perhaps the government or whatever paid, let's say maybe 500,000 to have that. But the point is, instead of spending money, with their old way with money, and they're saying it's so important, we only have this much money. Why do they build these big things of art and what have you while there's homeless? I mean, that money could have been taken, like you're saying, to take everyone off of the streets, and it's not acceptable, these old ways of the way that they spent money. Again, it becomes so obvious because any government anywheres, they had a choice to where, if even if they're under their old economic policy and systems, they could put the money where it's needed to get people off the street, to take people out of poverty, instead of building luxuries and what have you. And the Roman Catholic Church, let's look at all of one of the richest institutions upon the planet, if you will. They were, and they're supposed to be a representation of God or whatever, preaching and teaching the good ways. But here you saw, look at the richest what they have, the richest that they have. While let's take Africa and places of extreme poverty, while they're sitting on the most riches in the world. If that is godlike, but it's not godlike. Godlike, and humanity is compassion, sharing, and assisting. So very quickly, again, when you look at the church, governments, what have they been doing? They say everything is based on money. Have they assisted their brothers? No, they were selfish and wanted to rule and control the masses. And again, that's one of the reasons I'm on the surface, and many more of us are here, because no, it's not creator, it's not God, it's what the darkness had did, and it's breaking. So there we go. It is very simple and it's very obvious. And again, the awareness is spreading rapidly, and once enough of the masses know they have a choice, everything crumbles very quickly. And also, it is, I mean, to take down the corruption, there's been extensive work done on that. And if we jump to the US, for a few moments, and look at what the politician or the President Trump is doing, a lot hinges on the sealed indictments. What they have there, it's perhaps might be close to 150,000 now. It may be more, but upon unsealing these, it connects the dots globally of all of the elites, all of the satanic rituals, the pedophilia. It connects the dots very rapidly. So this is what we are sitting here now upon, because it's being done this way, because it's a part of a transition that it will go through a sort of planetary judicial system, a temporary judicial system, until everything is transformed more into the natural and universal law, which is very simple, and it's not complicated like the judicial structures that they created. So upon these indictments being unsealed very quick, it triggers the flash awakening of the masses. However, the reason why it's taken so long is what you need to look at. Each one has an energetic field. And if it's fear and if it's negative, and if you have the masses awakening all at once, it is a huge amount of negative energy and fear energy that begins to distort reality because everything is based on that. So to maintain a divine control on what's occurring, it is incrementally done and it is a process. So this is what is taking linear time to get this accomplished. However, we are right at that brink of it now. So ever since 2012, um, ones have been empowered to be able to, let's say, maintain a certain vibration, and then the masses are awakened to the full extent that all of the truths revealed, and then very quickly everything changes. So again, we are at the point where in the matter of days or the blink of an eye, everything can change very rapidly here to transition humanity out of slavery. I'm not given the exact point, and however, I always say that it can happen. You know, you can wake up in the morning and boom, everything changed.
You've mentioned there in that last little bit, Rick, you've used the word simple, obvious, common sense. We were just talking about the Vatican and how this institution, this centralized so-called authority on something like God being its representative here in the world, you've got this Son of God, Jesus Christ, who basically went around turning over tables of bankers and, causing problems for them, saying, what the hell are you guys doing? And here is their very representative sitting on like golden thrones, just in as far as international banking goes, the enslavement of, entire nations, the acting like a multinational corporation through Africa, just trying to find the cheapest labor. They're just running rampant around the world, just pure destruction. And just the simplicity, the common sense, it's so obviously ridiculous, and yet there it is. It's like what planet are we living on? How does this even work? And it makes me think of the term when you hear, the war on consciousness. The Vatican is a perfect example of this, how they have managed to somehow appear like sell this ridiculous deal where they're holy, and these guys are really just like absolute spiritual gangsters, like a spiritual mafia.
Well, they were the Antichrist, yes, the dark ones. I mean, look around the world, all the pedophilia that's been exposed, during this ascension since 2012. This is, the Bible does contain some truths in it, and one of the things is the revelations, and this is also what's occurring. It's being revealed, the real Antichrists. And the Vatican was the main one of that, and it's being exposed. And also, like you look at, I believe, the United Church, what you have there in Australia, and also the Catholic Church. I mean, if you look into all the pedophilia cases and sexual abuse cases, it's globally. So it reveals what the church actually was. A false prophet is what the church was as well, and using the guise of creator of God to cover up its insidious and atrocious deeds in the least. So yeah, it's so blatant now because it's been exposed, and again, it's been revealed what the Vatican truly is. But not only the Vatican, the other major player, what was in this, the British monarch. So in collusion, this was one of the, it's just so blatant. And what their actual intent was, you take Africa with the slaves, what they did there. You take Australia, where you're at, what occurred, during their conquering. the Vatican and the British monarch, they always went hand in hand. And also in North America, the crimes that, that they did there at what we can call the native indigenous peoples. I mean, just stealing the land, killing them, and what have you. I mean, you had a church involved in this, and you had a monarch or what's supposed to be a ruler, killing people. It just, it's so blatant, and it happened, all around the globe. So you had, and you also had other counterparts that were doing the same sort of thing, conquer and beating them over the head, listen to this religion here. This is the truth. Your God's not real. And however, I like to use the example with the um, um, indigenous peoples and their connection to Creator. It was just, so powerful, and it was a threat to institutions like the Vatican. So when they would go in somewhere, what they would do was just kill what they had to, and oh, what's the word? And just can't think of it. But anyways, impose the a religion upon them and take away their beliefs. So again, it's all being revealed in North America and Canada with the residential schools and what actually transpired in revealing, the underlying agenda and the motive and the intent as well. That it was again, just fully nefarious, dark intent, not what you would call civilized at all, just fully savage and dark with it. I'll stop. I don't want to ramble too much more on that.
That's that war on consciousness, like, I mean, the thought of entering into the arena of politics, into that viper's pit is quite terrifying for me. And I am internally torn about it, even though I am committed to that process. But, I mean, things have got to be put on the table. We got to start talking real politics, the real deal, not the stuff that's filtered down by, those in control, the multinational corporations, the bankers, all this stuff that we all know, that are telling our politicians what to do because they're selling out to things like money, power, status, same old deal. It's been going on since, the Roman Empire and long before, surely. But things like making churches pay tax, this sort of stuff has got to be put on the table. Like, you pay tax, or you have to, by law, take on the homeless and feed them and shelter them and clothe them. Like, let's get for real here. If you guys are a church and you're there to serve the community, or pay tax like anyone else. I look at the front yards of all the houses in suburbia, and you just think to yourself, what a waste of lawn space, Here in Australia, I don't know what it's like in the US or Spain where you are now, Rick, but here we've got like 2 days worth of food in our supermarkets. We've got an entire population of people that are dependent on supermarkets. Like we're totally enslaved. If those supermarkets stop, putting food on the shelves, like we'll start starving within 2 or 3 days. And to drive around suburbia looking at everyone's lawns thinking like, man, these lawns should be full of growing food and, these discussions need to be put on the table. Why does the government want to control the food supply, the water? Like, what's all this business about corporate licensing for water, where our farmers are like absolutely committing suicide, literally? They're in a position where they cannot operate, and our government's just letting it happen and handing out these water licenses, under the table deals. It's just too much. We've got to get back to simple stuff like that families talk around the dinner table, that real simple goodness. It's frustrating.
Well, really, again, the trick is you have a choice as well. If you wish to remain in fear and be part of the old paradigm and the way things were, it's not, you're going to keep looping. And everyone needs to trust in Creator and want this change at this time. And, things again, what I'm saying about very quickly with money, it can be created to infinity in the digital system. That's the digital system is how everyone's operating now. It's already here. So when you create money to infinity, there is no tax and you don't need tax. That was another form of enslavement by the Roman Catholic Church, and with what they called the tie, by robbing people to build up their wealth. And again, anyone can go back and look that out. I call it the tie, TITHE. And again, you don't need the taxes. And let me say to all of the viewers, the galactics are here, and the technology to clean up water and everything is here. And also, it is also at this time ongoing upon the surface. So things about food as well, very rapidly, do not anyone go into a state of fear. The galactics are here to assist, and any of you that is awakened, I suggest keep your eyes on the night sky and you'll begin to see the Merkaba ships. Once you're awakened to sufficient degrees and your physical vessel has been transitioned, mainly the eyes, you will begin to see the Merkaba ships, and they are flashing what we call the seven sacred rays, or the colors of the rainbow. And they do more than this. Once you pay attention to them and interact with them, they are actually connected to you and also your light bodies. So, having said this, with anything within government, everyone needs to know, and especially you, Mike, I'll share this with you. And again, it's up to you what you do with it. However, what I am saying is that there are a huge galactic presence that is here dimensionally, meaning that they are here in this dimension, but also interdimensionally, that is assisting with this huge ascension for humanity. Also, upon the surface, any of your deities, or what you would call the angelic and archangelic realms, there are many of us are incarnated here in physical avatars upon the surface to assure that this ascension gets done. So if anyone has any doubt, I suggest begin looking up in your night skies, let go of your fear and trust in Creator right at this very important time. And you'll begin to see that it is very real and that it's happening, and that these old ways with governments about all of these ridiculous licenses for water and all of this, that is going here very quickly. So it's not, we are at the point now where all of this is going very rapidly. Taxes, you don't, the old social and economic policies do not apply in the moment, that which can happen at any time again, that there is freedom for humanity in regards to money. It changes everything. You don't need, for example, insurance for your vehicle. You don't need license. You don't need all of these financial banks, and you don't need the stock markets. None of this. It becomes a moot thing. It becomes irrelevant and it becomes extinct. And this is the time that we're in, is this huge transition. So anyone, what I suggest going into the political field at this time, you're there to transition and implement the more simplified ways instead of being distracted on so many specifics that the darks had did it this way to complicate all of the systems, to create confusion, dissuasion in your judicial systems. They were all designed to dissuade and discourage one at trying to get a justice. It was intentionally done. So all of this it's imploding very rapidly. Indeed, and in fact, all of these systems have imploded globally around the world that may be unknowns to the masses, and well, unbeknownst to the masses. The sovereignty template of law has been here, it's been established. And also with this are many other currencies that are there to be temporarily backed on resource, taking also the control of the money away from the oligarchs in the darkness. So what society as it was that you see out there, that is all just hanging by a bare thread. What people don't see is what's been done by the light warriors and but more than that, by the angelic realms and the galactic presence here upon the surface. Everything is already in place to take the place of how things were, the whole systems. And again, it doesn't need to be complicated. What's going to occur is, as I said, you don't need financial markets anymore. The governments and the judicial systems the way they were, you don't need this. And very quickly, they are going to diminish until they phase out. And this is what's occurring, and to set humanity free. So anything that is not compatible and in alignment with the freedom and suppression of humanity, it implodes very quickly. It's revealed for what it is, like the Vatican and like the oligarchs and the elites. It's all been revealed for what it is, and very quickly it's no longer supported once the masses have all the information and are aware of. And once they've been pressured enough to stand up, which we know they're pressured enough, you take a world view, you see the billions that are in the streets. Again, it's time. So it's all imploding.
Yeah, there is
I said
definitely
another Mike.
it's definitely there is a feeling in the air 24/7. I have this conversation with quite a lot of people where more and more I'm finding that I walk outside, I look around, the sky, just the street, and I think to myself, something feels different than what it used to. And you mentioned all the people protesting in the streets. We've got so many countries that we've seen that happening just in the last 12 months alone. We've got France, Hong Kong, Chile, Spain has had its fair share of protests to do with, the Catalans over there. And we're seeing this more and more where people are binding together and acting in unison more and more. This is a good sign, and it's a powerful message too.
Indeed it is, yes. And it's imminent and it's inevitable and it's happening very quickly. So yeah, it's what's occurring. Getting back for a moment, for your viewers as well, look at your skies. Especially what I love is the pink, which is the love energy. I mean, it's happening globally. How many of you, if you went back, 5 years ago, how many times did you see pink in the sky? And look, to this last year, it's becoming more prevalent everywhere. And the pink is also the energy of love. And this is what it is. It's indicative of it. So you see the color of it, and it's happening globally. And look at your amount of rainbows, and your cloud formations. Indeed, everything has changed very quickly, and this is all indicative of the overall planetary vibration and the energy and what is transpiring with the energy, which dictates reality. And yeah, nothing. See, this is the light, and the darkness can't stand against it. Like the governments were dark, and they cannot stay as they were. It has to implode. The vibration of it no longer matches the surface. So therefore, it must go. So you can apply simple physics to look at why it must be, or you can just apply whatever way you wish to look at it. However, again, what I say, no, very quickly everything is changing, and with the governments and recently here, just what happened and what is ongoing in Canada is the Indigenous group standing up against the government. And what the government of Canada did, they broke human rights laws, and which borders on very serious international and human rights crimes. It violates their own constitution, and it's just absolutely not being accepted. So a lot in Canada are standing up about what is occurring there. And, these protests are growing right across Canada. They're getting bigger and bigger. The rail has been shut down, and some other things. I haven't been following it right closely, but again, you can compare it to France when they shut France down. Also, Hong Kong, what was going on there, it was beginning to be shut down as well. And, the people, and also very quickly, the ones that the hid ones in government have no choice but to relinquish that control. They have no choice but to comply. And we are at this point now. Very simply, it's all imploding very rapidly.
Something that I wanted to ask you, Rick, just listening to you now, is you've mentioned aliens, you've mentioned like intergalactic, multidimensional beings, like outside help type of thing that are kind of out there, and that they're a part of this somehow. And it makes me think of our own individual accountability and duty, like to ourselves and to each other. The more of us that step up in that individual kind of realm, then the more, because we're all connected, the more we help the whole system, So I wanted to ask you, what's the relationship or the dynamic between the individual, the collective, including like if there are, multidimensional beings that are here to help, how does that work? And sometimes I get the feeling when I talk to people about this sort of thing that they're kind of got an attitude where don't worry too much, we can all just sit back because the ETs are going to help us and get it done. And that inside me, I think, surely it can't be that simple. How can we all ascend to a better thing? Surely it's got to be on an individual level as well. All of us have to be the real deal and be true to universal law, as you put it.
Well, indeed, yes. We are the ones to administer the change on the surface. That's why this is happening. Let's say if someone was going to come to save you or the galactics, it would have already occurred. So very simply, that tells you, we are the ones to create the change. Now, what we do have is the backup in the assistance from the galactics that are here, as well as the angelic realms and a lot more powerful figures. How will I put this? Powerful creators, I'll put it that way. And so, yeah, we are the ones to create this change. And that's why, so many are driven the same as you, Mike. You're being divinely guided to go in to begin to affect this change as well. And yeah, it's every individual. There is nothing to fear. The fear is what keeps you suppressed. And this is one of the reasons why I mentioned to the viewers, look at your night sky. You'll see the ships, interact with them. This shows you that you're not alone in the least. And look at what's occurring, with your skies, how they are changing. Look at increased sightings of what you would call UFOs and ships. No, this presence is very real and it's here to assist. However, you are on the ground here to do this, all of us. We are here, we all play a role in this transition. And yes, the thing is, the trick to empower yourself is to have no fear. And I can tell you that we do not die. And when I say this, there are more that can attest to what I just said. They should have been dead, a few times, and no, they're still here because it's divinely assured that this occurs, this transition, and nothing stops it. And these are the miraculous times that we are in. And again, what needs to be done is everyone needing to be aware, the higher consciousness ones connecting and gathering and sharing information. And there is nothing to fear, and put your full trust in what you are and your connection to Creator. Don't allow any religion to stand in the way, because there are untruths in there and it will separate you from your power. The quickest way I teach is to empower yourself and to connect to Creator. And what that does, it instills the trust, which alleviates and eradicates the fear, which powers you up even more. Excuse me. So these are the keys to do it, to self-empowerment. Have no fear. You'll see it. Watch what you do. Don't have any fear. You are of the light. Begin using your power. Experiment with it, and you will see it, how it changes everything. That once that the darkness cannot, the remnant of the darkness cannot do anything to you. Change your mentality and have full trust, and you will see that you're supported by an invisible force that you never knew was there before. But just try little things. Stand up. Don't give your consent away to anything that is not moral or ethically correct, or anything that pillages, suppresses, or harms another. Once you stand up to any of this, any injustices, you'll quickly see that you have the divine support to do that. For instance, I'll take ones that battling in the earlier days. When I say earlier days, just shortly after 2012 or what have you, you'll see ones that were battling. They were totally innocent and up against the judicial systems. And what would occur magically in doing their divine work and standing up, just like magic, what would appear is documents or proof, exactly what they needed to do to support their case, but to also have the whole stream of it documented. It didn't matter if they got to a place where justice wasn't served. What matters, it's all documented, the evidence. Now, there was not only a couple people around the world that was doing this, there was many. So again, when you look at the amount of evidence of all the people that tried unsuccessfully against a corrupt justice system that did not get justice, then what you have is a huge amount of evidence just rendering any judicial system void, because it shows that it was biased as well, but through many other different ways. And again, if I start to get into specifics, Mike, then I tend to ramble on quite a bit. So I'll stop with that one. But Everything I say is truth, and everything can be documented and evidenced. Like, for example, I speak about the Merkaba ships that are here from time to time on my Facebook Live. There's other ones that we have them filmed and documented, and you can see all of the beauty of what they do and more. But this is still developing as we go along. But this stuff is real. It's we have it documented, and everything that I say, for the most part, I can back it up that there's some sort of at least evidence here upon the surface. Some things perhaps I cannot back up because there weren't pictures taken of them and what have you. But for the most part, the essential things that that are important things to instill the trust in one of what they are, and to trust that there's an ascension going on, that we are part of a creator, and that we are totally backed by all the angelic realms. So, and it doesn't take much for ones to know this. You just need to trust and look for it, and regain back your power by not giving away your consent to anything that is not right. That is one of the first steps, and you'll see your whole reality change very quickly, because you're going to be supported by not only you, all of the the angelic realms, your comrades, and all of this. So no one is alone. You're all part of the important ascension, what's going on. It's imminent, and nothing stops that.
You mentioned something really, really key, really important that I noticed straight away, and that is this breaking of, or interfering with, our own individual interaction with the moment, in the here and now, with reality. It's like there is always some kind of centralized authority that becomes a middleman, that breaks our connection with the moment, with the here and now, and tells us, I'm the authority. This is how you need to, what you need to believe, whether it's with God or whether it needs to be morally with government. There's always something that we, for some reason, look to. And when you mentioned before about each one of us kind of like becoming our own authority more, and just being in that moment direct, I really resonate with that, and think about it a lot, and have a lot of discussions about this, in empowering, each individual. I believe that's a really, really important part to this whole process, that we all kind of buy into this, believing a middleman institution, centralized authority, as being somehow knowing something more than we do. And in the moment, I just don't think that there's anything more sacred than a deal direct between, for instance, myself and this environment, and the divine and the universal law. There can't be any kind of middleman that's being objective to this subjective experience, sort of thing. It just doesn't make sense. And yet I look at the world, and it's like everywhere there's this interruption. It's crazy.
Yeah, no one, upon the surface, really, no one is better than anyone else here. So if you have a queen or a prime minister, I mean, on the lowest way to look at it, you're both human or humanoid, and no one can rule over another. So the point I'm trying to make with this is that everyone is just as good as everyone else. But if someone's trying to take away your power and your consent, then no, they're not as good as what you are when you stand in your full morals, in your ethics. You know what's right or wrong. It's ingrained within every individual, within their heart. It's what you know. So very quickly, anyone that does the opposite of that, well, no, they do not have power over you. Yeah, I looked at a comment. I was just going to say something else with this.
A previous comment
Again,
to this one?
yeah, well,
Let's
yeah,
see.
what
This one
Jasper had said.
or
Trust your instincts, and Trace Ann there. We own our own authority, and that is correct. It's so important that everyone realizes this, that in actuality we are also with this, I'll say, in the judgment days as well. So this is real in the Bible, but the things is with the judgment days, everyone judges themselves. It's not creator or God that judges. Each one judges themselves by their actions right in this now. For example, you purify yourself. You only act and do, the good things that are out of love and compassion and respect. And you're very quickly empowered with that. And you will see it has much more of an effect than ever before, because that is what is supported in this now. And what you will watch is anyone that in the beginnings of their empowerment, if they tell a lie, or if they do, just a misdemeanor of, let's say, of their character, very quickly they get hit with a negative whiplash. For example, if you told one lie, you would get hit with a multitude very quickly of, let's say, 10 deceptive things to very quickly let you know, okay, no, you don't do that anymore as well, because you become a magnet at this time for what you do. So in this way, it assists you in judging yourself and not doing any of these insidious deeds, and to do everything that is sharing and of love, and you will see that it attracts the like. So with your laws of attraction as well, we are in these times, and it's becoming more and more powerful, even more powerful than it was 24 hours ago. Well, the judgment days, yeah, they began a long time ago here.
And within the sphere of politics, we never hear any politicians talking about treating each other well, reminding us to say hello to our neighbor, reminding us to take our neighbor's bins out, like if they're not home, or if they're working back late from work, or whatever. Just little messages like that. We never ever hear anything like that on a daily basis, like on radio, mainstream TV, like we never hear these things. And it constantly makes me think, like, why don't we hear this we should be hearing this sort of stuff all the time. Our politicians should be up there in front of the cameras talking about this, like, reminding us, hey, don't forget to help out a mate, or don't forget, if someone's broken down on the side of the road, help them out. Like, it's the opposite. There's always this fear thing, like, gotta look out for yourself, don't trust anyone, and that's just such basic stuff.
Yeah, again, this is it's so hilarious as well. If the governments are there for the public's interest as well, it would be reflected outward, and it's not. And they're there because of the control of the money, and because of their own selfish desires for the most part. And yeah, it's not. It's kind of a conundrum or a paradox, if you will, that they're actually not there for the people, and it's just such a nonsensical scheme as well. And it's just indicative throughout their actions, as you're saying, when you see the absence of what humanity should be, it's not there. So very quickly, again, it tells you what their intent is. Indeed, it's not about you; it's about them, with their money and just continuing with the suppression to the fullest extent that they could. But again, no, it's no longer accepted. The majority of the population upon the planet right now are awakened to sufficient degrees to very quickly flip reality to what it was upside down in a heartbeat. You can just right at this point just look at a world strike, around the world, how it would cripple all of the governments and all of that. So there's so many things that can be done if it needed to be done. However, the transition with this ascension is supposed to go as smooth as possible. Hence the lengthy process with the unsealing of the indictments and things like this, because again, ones are transition into the new reality. But yeah, it shows you. I mean, yeah, what politician do you see? Did you see in the past that was in there and said, we don't, we're not going to build this big monument or whatever. We need this money for very quickly to build these apartment buildings or some vacant warehouses to get these set up for apartments for the homeless. No one should be on the street. Yeah, but you see where their attention goes. It's towards ridiculous monetary policy, and yeah, just absolutely ridiculous.
And it's so obvious to everybody. We all know this. I mean, it sounds like we're talking kindergarten talk here, you and I, like baby talk. Be nice to each other. Don't sell out to money. Don't. How can we have leaders that are in it for themselves to make wealth, to have power? People who are desperately wanting power should never be given an opportunity to be in power, because it's just so obviously wrong that it's going to corrupt everything. And yet here we are, grown men, you and I, beaming out this thing live on social media, talking goo goo gaga. It seems ridiculous that we even have to talk about this at such a basic level, and yet out there in the real world, this charade is being played. And I look at the politicians, and these guys are like trained on how to lie. Everyone knows it. They receive formal training. This is how not to answer a question. This is how to avoid the issue completely. This is how to sideskip it and just bullshit to everyone on camera and just lie to them. And this is, they get this training formally, and we all know that. Our taxpayer funds fund that training, and we still listen to them. It's absolute madness. It's like the world is crazy.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. They're programmed and conditioned, to do that. It's again, when I speak about it, like even here today, as I say, it's so nonsensical that there are times now that I don't even really wish to get into it, because again, it's imploding bit by bit. But today, what's important, to touch on this, because of the huge job that you have there in penetrating the political arena there where you're at, and you go in there, no fear whatsoever, and very quickly all of the policy can just be thrown in the garbage. It's no longer needed. It's put there again to complicate and distract and keep ones confused and always in a more controllable state. So the more laws that they made, the more economic policy, the more financial policies, it's just there to distract and confuse one, from the truth, to keep them always looking at that and to keep them conditioned. But that doesn't work any longer with it. Yeah.
Well, we're approaching an hour and a half now, Rick, and I know you only had 3 hours sleep last night. How are you holding up?
Well, it sounds great. I got to use the washroom, but yeah, I feel that's pretty good for now. And
Beauty.
perhaps in the future we can get on some other topics. But what I just wish to say, for no one to give their power or their consent away, especially to any of the governments, and have your best interest in mind. Now, this is not to say that there's politicians, that are going in there that are the people and part of it, and that, do have the good policies or what have you as part of this temporary transition. And yeah, they need to be supported because they are of the light, and to very quickly dismantle the old system, tear it down, and restore the order.
Very good, Rick. I thank you very much for coming on the show on such short kind of notice. Just in a day or two, we organized this, and it turned out to be a great hour and a half. Very enlightening, and I really appreciate your authenticity, your honesty. You just beam out as yourself. That's always a really inspiring thing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. And I've been so happy to come on this show as well. So it's great. And what I say for the viewers, this is real, and it's really happening. It's not an illusion. All you need to do is just look a little bit, and you'll begin to see the evidence of it. And keep your eyes on the skies, and you'll get some more.
Thank you very much, Rick, and we'll have you back on the show again very soon. I look forward to that very much.
That sounds great. So much love, lots of winks, and I love you all, and love and light, and have a great day. And I need to find out how I get out of here.
Oh, that's all right. I'll close it down now. Thanks, Rick. And to the audience, as usual, you guys have been absolutely wonderful. Until the next one, keep your head up and keep your heart strong. Bye for now.
Thank you.